welcome to the stage, Pekka Clark. Hey.
Hello, good morning. You having a good conference? Cool, yeah, I enjoy being here as well, so let's get started. For those who don't know, my name is Pekka Clark. I'm the Robot Framework lead developer, and it's kind of time for my annual update on what's new in Robot Framework core, what's new in the ecosystem, and also some of the future plans. There's quite a lot of topics to cover, not huge amount of time, and I'd like to have some time reserved for the question at the end, so let's get started. I'll start from the core, and after that we get to the ecosystem and then to those questions. Last RoboCon, we had a presentation about Robot Framework 7.0 that was released back then. In January, it was a huge release. It enhanced listeners, it added the var syntax, and had a lot of other enhancement and fixes and so on. And this 7.1 release that was released in September last year, it made enhancement to those listeners, some further enhancements. For example, listeners can nowadays change execution status. Is something I'm going to actually show you in a quick demo shortly. And you can also configure the listener calling order. This the second thing is important if you have multiple listeners and you need to make them somehow cooperate. So, for example, one is manipulating data, the other one is sending results. Typically, you want the listener manipulating data to be called first. The var syntax that was introduced in 7.0 was also enhanced a bit. Basically, it's now feature complete so that matches the old set test variable, set suite variable, set global variable, those keywords. Another nice enhancement, more like a quality of life enhancement, is that links to result files, to log and report on console, they are clickable if your terminal happens to support the terminal hyperlinks. But yeah, to that quick demo about listener. I was actually kind of thinking that do I need to show this demo, because Manny was yesterday already talking about this enhancement that listeners can change execution status, but well, I think I'll show it here anyway. We have here a really simple and dummy test case. Doesn't do much, logs hello RoboCon, and sleeps a little time and then just logs by. And obviously, if we run this normally, it will succeed. But with this listener that's there, oops, what happened? With this listener that we have there, it's actually not going to pass. What the listener does, it has one hook method, end keyword, that is called, if the listener is enabled, that's called whenever a keyword ends. And it gets two arguments. The first one is going to be a data. It's a Robot Framework model object representing these keyword calls like log and with those arguments and so on. And then the second argument is the result that what we got. And this is end keyword, so we have statuses and messages and so on. What this does there is it checks from the result that how long time it took in seconds, and then if the keyword succeeded and it took over 0.1 second, it fails with that kind of not very informative error message. So the dummy example as is, not very useful, but of course you could have in real life situation where you want to validate keyword speeds. You obviously want to make it somehow configurable, not have a hard-coded limit like this, but that's kind of besides the point. I'm mostly showing the functionality here. So let's see how it works. I can run it like this with the typical robot command, with listener argument and that fails log keywords, and that's it. And we can see here that didn't succeed. Keyword was too slow. In the log file, not here, not there either actually. Here, we can see that the first keyword, the log keyword succeeded, was fast, but the second one failed because it was considered too slow, and then the last keyword wasn't even executed. So that's what happened there. So this kind of enhancement like this one are kind of my favorite enhancement in Robot Framework. It's kind of relatively small enhancement. It wasn't super complicated to add, but then it enables people like Manny or other people in the ecosystem to build interesting tools. So if you don't remember Manny's presentation from yesterday, he had the opposite example I had here a listener that checks that can fail a keyword that succeeded, but in his example there was a listener that checked that if the keyword failed and it failed due to the locator not being found, he attempted to fix it, and if it succeeded, then it changed the status from failure to pass. So that works as well. You can make all your keywords succeed with this very easily, but there's a quite big chance that might get you fired because then your test results aren't super reliable. So use that with care. Manny's example I think it was very, very good, but I think in general, if you are changing statuses from fail to pass, you need to be careful. Let's get back to the presentation, which I managed to get off from the full screen mode. So that was the 7.1. Of course, there's many other features there as well, fixes, so on. You need to find the release notes, and that has all the details. We also managed to get another release out in Robot Framework 7 series. 7.2 released last month in January. Some nice enhancement there. The feature that's most important, or at least the most waited for, is this JSON output files as part of execution. That's been kind of on a wish list of the community for a long time. In Robot Framework 7.0, it was already possible to get JSON outputs, but not as part of execution. So as part of execution, you always get that old output XML, but the Rebot tool that you can use to generate log and report and otherwise kind of a post-process results allowed you to create JSON output as well. But now that's possible as part of execution directly. This release also introduced new group syntax for creating structured data without having keywords, without having user keywords. This is something I'm going to show in another demo very shortly. It also had not any huge single enhancement, but various small enhancements and some fixes related to working with bytes. So if you work with bytes or binary data with Robot, then it gets a bit easier. And it also contained new technology for libdoc. Libdoc is a tool for generating library documentation, and the HTML part of that was basically totally rewritten with new technology. The idea was that it's mostly invisible for you. You shouldn't see different changes there, but this new technology then makes it possible for in the future to enhance this libdoc outputs. And also, the plan is to take the same tech into use with Robot's log and report, which makes it possible to enhance them going forward as well. But the demo. Here I have another example using the group syntax for creating kind of structured data. So this is very much the same as having two user keywords, say hello and say bye, that would call these keywords. But what we're doing here is that we just group them directly here on test case. Let's see how they look on the log file. That makes it easier for you to see how they work. So run like that, succeeds. And here now we have a test with these two groups, and those groups then have keywords. So it's exactly as they would have been user keywords that you call. In the log file, the only difference is that here the label is named group, when here it's keyword. So pretty much no difference. You may want to ask then that why would you use this instead of those user keywords? And typically, actually, you shouldn't. Those user keywords are better in nearly all cases when working here in data. They are reusable, so if you can use them multiple times, that obviously makes sense with these groups. The only way to reuse them is copy-pasting, which is obviously a very bad idea. But in some cases, here in data level, there might be usages for this where you, for example, couldn't reuse those keywords anyway, or you're generating this data somewhere from other kind of model, and you don't want to start creating user keywords based on the model. You instead just want to have that kind of structured data, structured results. But the most important reason why this was actually added wasn't how it works here in data. We probably wouldn't have added it only for this. The most important reason why it was added was the programmatic usage. I have here another listener. This time it has a hook method for start test. It gets also, again, data and result objects. This time the data and result, they represent the test case that was there. The test case, the data object has body. The body has a method create keyword. Sorry, create group. Well, it has create keyword as well, but we are here calling create group. That will create a group at the end of the test case and also returns it. So we can then call create keyword of that body of that group that we got, add some keywords there and so on. And this way we can create structured data directly in a listener or possibly in a pre-run modifier that also allows you to manipulate data, or any kind of a script that you create, you can now create structured data programmatically, which can be very convenient. This has been asked actually various times as well, and that was the reason when someone in the community proposed this group syntax in data. I wasn't super excited about that itself, but I realized that if we add it, it makes this long wish that to create structured data programmatically actually possible, and that was the main reason. So let's see how that works. We run the same test again with the listener. This time the listener name is add group, and that's it. Oh, by the way, let's actually change one. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to show you shortly what happened there, but I'm also going to now change the result for this output. I use the output option, and then I use file output, and where the extension is JSON. Now the format is also going to change, so it's not XML anymore, it's JSON. No difference here. Well, the file name of course changed, but otherwise everything works as earlier. Log when report is generated normally, but we can take a look at that output files shortly. But before that, let's look at what happened to our test case. It has those earlier groups, but now it has this third group, one more, that has those keywords. So very easy to now create this kind of data. You have, of course, earlier it has been possible to add keywords to the test case, but if you have a lot of those, then in the log file it can be hard to understand if it's just one level. But this makes it easier to see what's happening there. And that JSON result, I have that open here as well. Let me actually close this. I guess I don't need them anymore. That's how it looks like. Not very human-friendly. There's no indentation because indentation would add spaces and would make this file size larger. But of course, I can here somewhere reformat that, I guess, there. So we can see a bit better what's there. So there's a suite that has certain test cases, and then there are groups and so on. And that's how it looks like. There's one thing that was kind of surprising for me, that this is actually not much or not at all basically smaller than those output XML files. With the output XML files you have those tags that take some space, but it actually doesn't affect so much. But there has been a lot of requests for this in certain environments. It's easier than to post-process these than those XML files. So there you go. Back to the presentation. With 3.2, same as 3.1, these aren't the only enhancements. Maybe the most important ones for general public. There might be something more important for you, especially. Find the release note and check them out for all the details. The next release that we are planning to do is yet another feature release in 7 series, 7.3. The plan is to have it out in the first half of 2005. Exactly when, we don't know. Exactly what it will contain, we don't know either. The planning has started. We had a discussion about that at the Community Day on Tuesday. And the planning will continue on that roadmap channel on our Slack, and the actual development discussions are more on the Devel. If you're interested to participate, if you want to just follow what's going to happen, join these channels, especially the roadmap for following kind of the feature planning and so on. One thing that we know that will certainly be there, well, always can be changes, but the idea that there is going to be there is a new robot framework manual that is basically a rewrite and more importantly like a restructuring of the existing and robot framework user guide. So user guide tech is kind of outdated. It's just one single document, not very modern and something like that. So we are going to change it to more modern tech, and at the same time we take the possibility to go through it and restructure the content and so on. This is how it looks like on kind of narrow screen on mobile. So that's one thing that it's going to look much better on mobile. But I can quickly, I should have a little time still to show that how it looks on a browser. The URL is quite small, but as you can see, if you can read it, you can see that it's under my personal GitHub account at the moment. It's there. So this is the tech basically is there. We did that already last autumn, but then we needed to concentrate with 7.2, get that out. The thing that is mostly missing is that the content isn't there. There's some content, but not that much. But I can show something like there's cool things that this built-in shirts. I can search everywhere here. Relate to searching information, we're going to add glossary, so where all the terms are. It's kind of thin at the moment because content is missing, but idea is we're going to have terms and then link to them and so on. Another nice thing that will be there is that it's going to contain library documentation directly here, so that you can click them to get to them. And even perhaps more importantly, we have Robot Framework API documentation in the same place. At the moment, we have user guide as one thing, and then API documentation is hosted elsewhere. In the future, it will be here. So when we document, for example, something like those listener interfaces that you just saw, those model objects that I used, it's easier to link to those related objects so that you can see how you can use them. This is how the API docs will then look like, something like this. This is based on mkdocs tool. More precisely, material for mkdocs, and then we are using mkdocs strings for API doc generation. And both of those tools, all of them, they seem to work very well. So I'm happy. Now we just have the kind of big task to convert the old content from, first of all, from restructured text that the user guide is using to markdown, and also restructuring otherwise. If this is something that where you think you would like to help, contact me. I'll be at the speaker corner afterwards, and also there's another Slack channel for that called Manual, where you can go. If you are interested to participate in general, you probably are interested in this one as well. So we're planning to have core development sprints at the end late August or early September. This is a new initiative to grow the core team. It was just approved this Monday by the Robot Framework Foundation board. The idea is that if we get more people who can work actively in the core, we can get features done faster. And also it's kind of safer that it's not mostly me who is developing that, if there are more people with knowledge about the core. Anybody is open to join basically, but you need to apply. We don't know the criteria exactly yet. We don't actually know much of the details, that we just agree that we want to have this. There's going to be some tasks also for non-programmers. We plan to go through the issue trackers, and there's documentation work and so on. But yeah, there's going to be more information, at least on the Devel channel, most likely somewhere else as well. So if you're interested, join the Devel channel. If you haven't, contact me, something like that. One more thing related to core is that we hit 10,000 stars on GitHub, which was pretty huge. Yeah, that happened in December already. There's this trend graph starts from the time when Robot Framework was put to GitHub. Initially, it was in Google Code, open source code hosting service. GitHub actually didn't even exist when Robot Framework was open sourced. Few interesting things here in this trend graph. You can see that it was steady but somewhat slow in the beginning, and then around 2018, a bit after that, the line turns up. That was the time around we had first RoboCon, so I think that might be a big contributing factor. And another thing is that there's also a small curve exactly kind of a year ago when we had previous RoboCon. So I don't know. It's good that it's getting growing a bit more. So as you can see that if it would have been steady, we would have basically now been in 10K, but we were there already in December because it's just a small curve. But yeah, that's about the core. I have a few minutes still. I'll go through the ecosystem project, so I'll go there, and then we have hopefully plenty of time for questions still. Plenty of new things to the ecosystem, of course. I'm super happy how the ecosystem is growing every year. The one that I want to specially mention here is Robot Code 1.0 by Daniel. It's going to have a separate presentation and launch party at RoboCon Online, so certainly go there. I think the Robot Code 1.0 is actually not yet out, but it's a beta or something like that. But Daniel is getting there, so we're going to have this version. A lot of great enhancement, better performance, a lot of new features, better documentation, and for me personally, the biggest one is PyCharm support because I use PyCharm, not VS Code. Robot Code was originally only available there, so now it has PyCharm support already. And by the way, I was in earlier demos, I was using PyCharm with Robot Code, and you saw no problems. So good stuff. This work has been sponsored by Robot Framework Foundation and also actually by Imbus, Daniel's employer. So kudos for both of those. And assuming that we are doing well, the foundation is doing well after this RoboCon, I think it looks pretty promising. Mika can tell more. There's going to be more sponsorship money for thrown into that direction in the future, so hopefully more development. Related to this, we can now consider the old plugin for VS Code and PyCharm, the called Robot Framework Language Server, to be deprecated. If you're using it, don't use it anymore. Switch to this one. The language server that one hasn't been updated for some time and doesn't support like Robot Framework 7.0 features like the var syntax, nor does it support the group syntax or something. But group syntax actually you saw was already supported by Robot Code. And definitely switch to that. And join Daniel's presentation. And if you have questions related to that, he's around here as well. So, well, some new projects to the ecosystem. There's Robot Framework Construct, also been sponsored by Robot Framework Foundation, by Franz Haas. It's a parser and builder if you're working with binary data. This is something that I believe makes Ismo Aro, the founding father of Robot Framework, very happy because back in the days when he was working for Nokia, he built a tool called Rambok for Robot Framework that was kind of this kind of thing that allowed you to construct protocol messages and send them and so on. So this is kind of successor of Rambok. Rambok, unfortunately, was never ported from Python 2 to Python 3. So, but now we have a project that supports stuff, same thing. There's Robot Framework Robot Dashboard for result analysis. There's going to be a separate presentation about that on Robot Code Online, so go check that out. There's Purjo by Asko. It's a strange name for a tool. I asked him yesterday why. He said that, well, that was a 5-character long name on Python packaging that was free, so he used that. It's just a vegetable in Finnish. So, but yeah, it's a service tax worker plugin for Operaton or Camunda 7. This workflow engines, BBN. What's that BPM engines? Asko had a workshop related to that actually on Wednesday. So yeah, that's there. And there's another kind of related thing. There's another workflow automation tool called NA10, and there's a Robot Framework plugin for that as well nowadays, which is cool. So these are both like RPA kind of platforms, I guess, at least. But anyway, another thing that Daniel has been working with was mentioned. It was not the sole topic, but it was actually mentioned in the presentation yesterday, so we learned about that. Looks very promising. Daniel wanted me to say that it's also in very early stages, and well, you learned about that yesterday, but it's very, very promising, and if there's people interested in, go help him. He's also working with robot code, so help somewhere would be appreciated. Dependency Solver is a project for specifying dependencies between test cases by Jonas. It's actually originally fork of a tool called Dependency Library, but now this has a slightly different approach. Plenty of enhancements to existing projects as well. This RoboCon 6.0, which I also believe it's not yet released, but it's going to be out soon, kind of could have been also under new project because it's a big change. It incorporates Robocop, which is a linter that validates your data, that follows the syntax rules that your project have, and it merges that with RobotTidy, which is a formatter. Bart has been the developer of both of those. earlier, but now they are going to be combined. So it kind of makes it easier for those, because when you have one tool that is both a linter and formatter, that it can agree with itself about formatting and linting rules. So it doesn't happen so that you format it with the tool and then the linter part complains that, hey, this looks bad. So that should be better in the future. Good stuff. Jenkins plugin, that's also, we had actually presentation exactly about that. They've been keeping up with robot framework changes, even though we break a lot of things in 7.0, make like a date, made a lot of changes to output XML, so great that they've updated. OpenAPI tools by Robin has been updated as well. It's also another merger, so his existing OpenAPI driver, OpenAPI libc have been merged together into OpenAPI tools. This was, if I remember correctly, I might be remembering wrong, but I think this was those OpenAPI driver, OpenAPI libc were projects that were sponsored by Robot Framework Foundation previous years. Right, the old standalone Robot Framework editor has also been getting updates, better localization support. The text editor component got auto-completion, so kudos for Helio for that. It's still, although we have the robot code, which is awesome, it's still, I think, good to have this right that is kind of more suitable for like very non-technical people. Its IDE is always kind of looks scary if you know nothing about programming or something like that. So good to have that. Robot Framework Swarm, RSwarm, also getting new features, new enhancements. That's also another tool that was presented yesterday. It was cool that if there was someone else than Dave who was presenting it. Dave was actually last year in RoboCon. There's a presentation on that, so you should check that out if you haven't. And Arkadius has been helping him, and his work has been actually sponsored by Nice Project. So it's good that there's this kind of things happening more widely in the ecosystem. Database library, also, well, obviously the tool for database testing has also got a new release. Andre has also been presenting that in earlier RoboCons. You definitely should check it out. It has probably the most funny video there about different kind of data types and so on. So absolutely go check it out. Somebody should find it out and send it to the Slack or something, because it's, well, fun. Finally, our most kind of important, the most used libraries for web testing browser. Selenium library both got new releases. Browser especially got plenty of new releases over the last year. Both got translation support. This is something that Tatu Aalto is going to talk in online RoboCon. And both got a lot of fixes, features. Browser got enhanced logging. And there's also browser, well, actually both of these have plugin interface, and the one kind of plugin worth mentioning separately is this plugin is running Playwright JSON directly in Robot Framework data without any special plugin. A separate plugin, and Rene told that this actually most likely will be merged with the browser core in the future. I'm sure there are other projects in the ecosystem that have been updated, projects have been added that I have missed, and we are now done with my presentation. It has time for questions. So if you happen to know a project that has been enhanced, has been added, you can mention that, but otherwise, time for questions.
Thank you, Pekka. Questions? Anyone?
In the middle. So,
okay, there. Please pass it. And the new safety guideline is that I cannot really throw it.
Cannot kick it.
No.
Thanks very much, Pekka. One question concerning the listener that is able to add groups. So the new group is appended to the existing code. Do you also plan to have a feature that it is inserted at the top?
Yeah, you can. In the demo, it was added at the end. It was using that create group. But the body that was manipulated is basically a list-like object where you can then shuffle things around as you want. That's kind of if you want to add a group to any specific page, you need to actually import that group object separately and create an instance of that and then add it to wherever you want. That's kind of a convenience feature, is that there's this create methods that you can use, and they add it to the end. So typically, if you are then constructing something from scratch, you can then start from the empty body and then add them there in the order. But if you are manipulating, you can also add them anywhere you want. The API is just slightly different, but it's certainly possible.
Thank you.
More questions? Okay. There's one. Yeah.
On that same topic, can you hide the groups from the end report somehow, please?
The whole group or the group level?
The group level.
Yeah, you can. That's with the same kind of those same APIs that I showed there. When you have the result object, you can manipulate them however you want. You can add more groups also at the result processing phase, so you can remove them. You can remove them all together, or you can remove certain layers, or add whatever you want, basically. You can do it that my examples there, both were using listeners, but result modification is possible also with the tooling called pre-rebot modifier, or you can have a separate script that gets your output XML or output JSON as an argument, and then does some kind of changes to the result model, and then you can save it back, and there you are.
More questions? There's one. Can you? Oh, okay. You get the proper mic.
Up.
Oh. Aye.
Hello. Thank you for presentation. So I have one question. Hello here.
There.
Thank you. So the question is about, we are using very old version of robot, currently 3.2.2. So do you have some kind of transform tools for transforming from robot 3. something to 7?
There happens to be actually a tool that can manipulate the data from Robot Framework 3 to 4, because there's a big changes that the for loop syntax was changed, and also there were certain changes to variables if you were using like list variables and that and access designer from there. So there's a tool that I created for one of my customers a few years ago. It's available, I think, at the Market Square, might be at under Robot Framework repository. I know somewhere. I can find it for you later. I'm not going to find it now. You can come to SpeakersCon, for example. But yeah, so there's tool like that can help you a little. But in general, what you need to do as kind of the general upgrading guideline is that you should check the next release. You don't try to upgrade from 3 to 7 directly. That's most likely not going to work. But you can try to go from 3 to 4, see what happens. If it works, great, you can go move forward. But if you get deprecation warnings, fix those before you move forward, and then you can go to 4 to 5. If that works, that's good. If not, then you can move maybe from 4 to 4.1 first and see what's there. With anything bigger, we always try to make it so that we deprecate something. So you shouldn't try to skip when upgrading. Don't try to skip too many releases, because it might be that something was deprecated first and then removed. And when you go to the new, from like old to really new, then things just won't work at all. But if you go from one version to another, then you can get those deprecation warnings, and it's easier to update. But yeah, there hasn't been that many syntax changes anymore after basically 4, so there shouldn't be that or anything that could be automatically fixed at least. But from 3 to 4, there's a tool.
We have still time for one question. One more. Okay. No. Thank you, Pekka, for the excellent presentation.